Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. It is that time where we're going to be looking at some online tournament results. We do have the Liverpool regionals going on right now, but then of course this next weekend we have Knoxville regionals. I will be in attendance in Knoxville, so I've been really studying the meta and trying to figure out what I want to play to Knoxville. I'm still undecided on what I'm playing in Knoxville, and hopefully these online tournament results can help give me an idea of what I want to maybe play, or kind of just see where the meta's at right now, any cool spicy stuff. There are some really interesting decks that I have already looked at that are like, okay, wow, these decks are getting top 8 in these tournaments. That is pretty cool. There's some really crazy arc piles to look at in today's video. But yeah, if y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below and leave a like in the video if you're going to enjoy and all of that good stuff. So I'll leave a link down below to play.limitless if you ever want to play in one of these online tournaments for yourself. So we got the TCG Live Caned Cup here as the first tournament to look at. And the winning deck was, of course, Giratina. It's safe to say Giratina is the current best deck in the standard format. It is, without a doubt, the best deck. It's got the most room for outplay for your opponent. A good Tina player will always do better than a mid-Giratina player, and it's just a very powerful deck. And we are seeing the Avery become a staple here within Giratina because of the ability to disrupt the opponent's bench. We do have Rapid Strike here in second place. I think Rapid Strike is still honestly a very strong deck. We are seeing it kind of slip a little bit in terms of its play. It hasn't been doing the best performances in the regionals, but it is still a very powerful deck. And it does tend to have a decent Tina matchup, but it can brick sometimes. We actually have a Mew Iselgor deck here in top 4. So Iselgor does seem like a really good option to have within Mew, mainly because it helps against Roaring Moon. Now, obviously, Charizard is a tough matchup for Mew, but I really do think that Iselgor really can fix those two matchups, mainly the Roaring Moon matchup. I don't know how good Iselgor would be in a Charizard. It's still probably good, but I do like the idea of playing a Iselgor within Mew, because Roaring Moon is a very hard matchup for Mew VMAX. Sometimes Judge Path is just not enough. Roaring Moon, not only can it be kind of bulky with, 230 HP, but it easily one-hit KOs your Mew VMAX. The Roaring Moon matchup is very scary in my opinion, and now that Roaring Moon is becoming a lot more popular, I think that Mew VMAX might get a bit worse. However, I do like the idea of playing a Iselgor, whether you're playing 1 or whether you're playing 2 Iselgor. Iselgor can be really good against Roaring Moon, because not only are you sending a 1-prizer to knock them out in one hit, but yeah, you're basically just doing that. You're also avoiding getting killed by Morpeko thanks to the fact that you have 90 HP. I think Iselgor is a really cool idea within Mew, and it's something that I have tested myself, but I'm not too sold on it yet, but it is a cool idea with how popular the Moon is, and it did get top 4. In fact, there was another Rapid Strike here in top 4 too. Just once again, Rapid Strike being really good. But in the top 8, there was at least one Roaring Moon, and it looks like it is the more standard Turbo Roaring Moon deck. Not really the Ross Cawthon deck, but it is playing 3 Ancient Booster Capsules. It's got the Town Store, the Collapse Stadium, 2 Pokestops, splitting the stadiums. It's more of a Turbo deck with the 4 Sada and the 1 Iono. But yeah, Moon, it's just popular right now. There's a bunch of ways to play it. I know you got the Lost Zone build of Mew, or Roaring Moon. You got the Turbo build here. You got the Iron Hands build. You got the Ross Cawthon build, as it's called. Then we got another Giratina in top 8. Once again, Avery-less Giratina. And then we got another Zard deck here. Now, they're coming up as other because I guess they haven't really... I think it's because of like the shinies from Paldean Fates in the deck. But we do have the Charizard here. And actually, this Charizard deck is playing the brand new Charmeleon, it looks like. Yeah, it is playing that new Charmeleon where you can prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to it, preventing Sableye from being able to Lost Mine you, which is kind of sick. So, interesting inclusion indeed. And then around at the top 8, we got a Guardy deck here. But I guess this Guardy deck, yeah, it's got Moonlit Hill Stadium in it now. Moonlit Hill Stadium is a very strong card. I haven't tried it yet with the Gardevoir, but I do think Moonlit Hill and Gardevoir is a very strong card because it does allow you to use Shining Arcana Gardevoir and even Zacian V sometimes a lot more aggressively. So definitely a very powerful card in the deck, and we do see it as a 1 of there. We'll have to see if more Guardy Moonlit Hills pop up. I'm not sure how many tournaments we have here with Paldean Fates legal to look at, but we do have that. We do have the Cinnabar Island tournament here. This one is one of the bigger tournaments we have recently. The winning deck was a Roaring Moon, and it looks like it is the Ross Cawthon Moon deck with the Ionos, the Research, and, of course, having access to the Emergency Jelly within the deck, and playing Judge, which I'm pretty sure Ross played. This actually just might be Ross's 60 from Charlotte. But yeah, again, the more draw support heavy build of Roaring Moon is, in my opinion, the better way to play it because it does give you more leverage in a match, but it is still a very powerful deck regardless. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Ross Cawthon's exact 16. It did take down the entire tournament going 8-1-1. It did end up beating out another Roaring Moon deck in top 8. It's a Lost Zone Roaring Moon deck with Path to the Peak. Now, this is not the only time we're going to see this list, but I do really like the idea of Path within Moon and Lost Box because Path to Peak is a card that never really sees much play within like the normal Lost Zone decks, other than, of course, Giratina. But Path did see a bit of play back in Sablezard, way back in the Lost Origin days. You know, Tord Reklev did play Path, but now we're seeing Path trying to be squeezed in again. It's definitely a card that you can play. I mean, obviously, shutting off your Radiant Greninja isn't great, but that's all you're shutting off. Everything else you can still use, and Path to Peak can win you games, especially when you have both Roxanne Path and Iono Path. This can help in a lot of different matchups. You don't have to, like, slam the Path down right away. You can save it when you want to go Roxanne or Iono Path, because you can build up a massive hand. It can be very good, actually, in, like, the Moon Mirror match. We got Double Moon here, just trying to just be as aggressive as possible with the insta-KOs. And then there's another Charizard here in top 8, or top 4, yeah. Charizard just, once again, being one of the strongest decks. Actually playing double Charmeleon, 2 of the new Charmeleons, in fact, basically trying to capitalize on the TM Devo. That's one of the main reasons why there's most likely 2 Charmeleons in here, because it's very good against TM Devo. That's one of the things. As somebody who has played a lot of Sablezard, I'm not a big fan of Charmeleon, dude. Charmeleon is a pain in the butt because it's hard to TM Devo the Charmeleon and knock it out, right? Because most of the time, they're not going to throw the Charmeleon Charizard at you when you try to attack. You have to, like, go around it and counter catch it. And that's one of the big deals here. And double Charmeleon can be very strong. And even just playing 2 of the new Charmeleon too, which is also pretty good for the Jirachi. There's another Mew in top 8 here. Looks like we just got the more standard build here with the double Fusion Energy and the Judge, the triple Judge. There's another Tina, of course, here doing pretty good. Tina with Avery. Pretty standard stuff there. There is a Goldengo in top 8. The online warrior itself, Goldengo. Now, Goldengo did do decent in Charlotte. It got top 32. It's finally starting to get its run, but it definitely does seem to be a more of an online tourney-friendly deck. It's doing pretty good in these online tourneys, and is one top 8 here with the Palkias, the Greninja, the Cologne Cross Switcher combo. Yeah, Palkia Goldengo seems to be the best way to play it. Scizor is still okay, but it definitely seems like everyone's leaning towards Palkia Goldengo, and I do like the deck a lot. It's pretty cool. And then we have an Arc deck here in top 8. Now, this is a very interesting Arc deck. It's actually Arceus Gudra V-Star. So, this is a deck that I've also theory-crafted recently. Gudra V-Star has fallen off. It doesn't really see much play anymore within the Lost Zone deck. I don't know how good that really is anymore. Even if you were to try the Gudra Lost Zone deck, you probably just can't beat stuff. I think Giratina is going to be a bad matchup. Miraidon and Mew are going to be bad matchups. But this Arc Gudra deck, I like. Gudra obviously being very bulky. The one cool card in the deck that you'll notice is a Medical Energy. When you attach it from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you can heal 30 damage from it. So you can heal the Gudra. Now, I'm pretty sure there is some kind of math involved with Medical Energy and Gudra. I'm not sure what the math is, but I'm sure that if you play the Medical Energy, you can get yourself at a 2-shot range in a specific matchup. I'm not sure what matchup that is because I can't be bothered to think about it, but it definitely seems like that's what that's for. But it is a really interesting 60. Only playing a 1-1 Gudra, though, instead of a 2-2 line that we'd usually see within these Arc piles. But still very strong. It's a very straightforward list. I mean, 4-4 Arceus. We got the 3-3 Bibs, which is what Makani Tran played to Charlotte. And I think 3-3 Bibble is honestly very based because you have a higher chance of getting the Bibble out early. You have a higher chance of starting Bidoof, which is never bad in case you're playing against like Moon or Miraidon. 4 Judge, 4 Iono, just 4 bosses. Very straightforward list here. So really cool stuff for that Arc pile. Of course, we got a Shempao in top 8 with the Iron Hands EX, 2 Ionos too. Shempao just kind of still lurking there. Not really the greatest deck right now, but still kind of just lurking in the metagame. All right, next up, we do have the Tournament of Doom. Tournament of Doom, another big online tourney here. The winning deck, of course, was Gardevoir with... doesn't look like there's any new cards in the deck here, but we do see the Gardevoir deck winning in the tournament. Pretty standard Guardy list. The only thing that's missing maybe is just not playing the Avery, but still playing mostly everything you'd see. It is playing the Battle VIP passes within the deck too. And in second place, there was, of course, a Roaring Moon, and it looks like it is the Ross Cawthon Moon deck once again with the Judge and the Iono in the research package. But yeah, still the Roscothan Moon deck putting in some work. Did lose to Guardy, which obviously is to be expected. Gardevoir has a very good Moon matchup, especially when they're cutting the water energies. We do have Zard, of course, in top 4 because Zard is also really good. Another double Charmeleon build, not playing any of the new Charmeleon, playing the 100 HP Charmeleon. It's actually the Bibzard deck, too. I just took me a minute to realize that it's actually Bibzard. Now, Bibzard is a bit better in the mirror match, in my opinion. And that's because you get access to not having to worry as much about TM Devolution. One of the things, obviously, that swings in the Charizard mirror is that all the Charizard lists are now playing TM Devo, which is really good in the mirror. But the Bibarel Zard build does have a little bit more leniency in the mirror match because you are able to not just like have your Pidgeot get de-evolved and then you can't really come back in that game. You don't really care if your Bibarel gets de-evolved because you can just evolve it again. So really helps in the mirror. Still teching out for the mirror with the TM Devo. Also playing Eventual Punch is interesting. So definitely a really interesting 60 there for sure. Of course, we do have a Tina deck here in top 4. Once again, just a very standard Tina list. Playing double Iono, I guess. Maybe not as standard as we thought. So another Tina in top 8, of course. Another Iono Tina deck here. Of course, we'll quickly skim through that. There is a Lost Zone Sablezard deck here. Again, a deck that I'm a big fan of. Looks like it's pretty similar to Alex Shemansky's 60. In fact, I might just be Alex Shemansky's 60 from Charlotte. But yeah, I'm still a big fan of this deck. I still think the deck is good. I do think that Miraidon obviously is your worst matchup. Or not your worst matchup, but one of your hardest matchups. Same thing with Gardevoir. You get past those two matchups, though, this deck kind of beats everything else, in my opinion. I guess Zard can be close. If Zard's playing double Charmeleon now, which we've seen a couple of the lists now play 2 Charmeleon. I mean, well, we did see a Bibzard deck play double Charmeleon. But if double Charmeleon is going to become the norm now, I mean, they might get a little bit more sketchier for Sablezard. We got another Zard deck here in top 8. One Charmeleon. Could just be the 60 from Charlotte there, played by Auntie. And we got another deck in top 8. Again, they're all other because I'm pretty sure it's just all the Paldean Fates cards haven't been like registered yet on Limitless. But there is Guardy here, but it is playing a Spiritomb in the deck, a very interesting one of. Gardevoir doesn't usually play too many more, but it is still now in this deck. I'm not sure how good it is. It does help against Charizard, I guess, which is the big deal. And I guess you do help a little bit into like other fringe things like Luminion. Obviously, you just automatically probably have like a really good Mew matchup, which is nice. So that's nice, I guess. But yeah, Guardy with Spiritomb is definitely interesting. And it did get top 8. So there you go. Next up, we got the Blue Ditto tournament. Now, I did want to highlight this because All Out Blitzel, who's known to play these pretty interesting Arc piles, won the entire tournament with an Arc Trevenant VMAX deck. And I've been hearing some rumblings of this deck since it's been getting popular. And I really think that Trevenant is an interesting concept. Now, I've done a video on Trevenant Arc before, because I do like the idea of what Trevenant does. So, for starters, it is a grass Pokemon. Obviously, you just naturally have a good matchup into probably Moon and Charizard. But both Trevenant V and VMAX are interesting. So, Trevenant V does have that attack Shadow Claw that discards a random card from your opponent's hand. So, this is very good against Lost Zone decks. You can knock out Cramorant, you can knock out Comfey, and you can discard a random card from the hand. So, combine that with Judge, you can make your opponent potentially lose an important card. So, you can, like, judge them to 4. I don't know, they get a Colress, right? It's like, oh, Shadow Claw. Oh, your Colress gets discarded. Good luck getting back in the game. That's the idea behind the Trevenant. It is very good against those type of decks. And then we got the Trevenant VMAX, of course, which doesn't really do anything crazy. It's just a bulky Pokemon that can take down 2 Charizards, theoretically speaking. If you knock out the Charizard first, you should hopefully be able to tank a hit, and then you can knock out another Charizard, which is really good in the Charizard matchup. The main trait of this is really just the fact that it's good in Charizard because it tanks a hit, but you also do have Missing in the Forest, which does 40 damage for each supporter in your opponent's discard pile. There's not that many matchups where this is going to be super relevant, but it could be good against stuff like Giratina, potentially something like Roaring Moon, because sometimes they'll discard a lot of supporters due to like Pokestop and stuff. Yeah, there are matchups where Missing in the Forest can be good. But yeah, it definitely is a very interesting attack. Sometimes in late game, it can come up and just destroy your opponent. And while you're playing these grass Pokemon, you can play that one of Leafeon V in the deck too if you miss an energy turn 1. An interesting tool split. We got the Box of Disaster and the Belt and a full face card. I've been really liking this card. It basically allows Arc V to knock out one-shot by Miraidon on the first turn, and it also, with Path in play, makes it so that Arceus V-Star can't get one-shot by Giratina. So really interesting 60 here. I think I wouldn't mind maybe seeing like a Leafeon V-Star in the deck if there's a way to fit it. Does seem like it might be tight on space. Maybe cutting the Raihan is the way to go. A lot of the Arc decks nowadays are no longer playing Raihan. Maybe cut the Raihan for a Leafeon, a V-Star, which I wouldn't hate playing a Leafeon V-Star in the deck. Another full face card wouldn't be bad either. But yeah, I do like it, and the Trevenant VMAX is definitely very interesting as an Arc partner. We do, of course, have the runner-up being, once again, the Palkia Goldango deck, the Warrior of the online tourney scene. There was another Mew here in top 4. It is the fusion build with Meloetta and Ice Cube. Try to capitalize on the donk potential there. And then, of course, after that, there is an Iron Valiant Brute Bonnet Cloth deck here. So, very interesting deck, kind of combining 2 decks in one. The Iron Valiant does actually make sense in this deck, theoretically, because sometimes your Cloth and Electrode don't quite get the knockout. Even with, like, Radiant Sneasler, you're still not getting there. Which, in fact, this build doesn't even play Radiant Sneasler. It subbed out the Sneasler for the Iron Valiant. So, Iron Valiant can just do a bunch of damage. You can set up KOs a lot more easily with the Iron Valiant. Interesting 60 for sure. Yeah, very, very cool deck. It did do well in this tournament, which is kind of spicy, so that is definitely a cool take on Iron Valiant. There was a Lugia in top 8. It is the colorless Lugia deck, too, which is also interesting. Not Earth and Vessel Lugia, just the colorless build, which is, I mean, I don't think the deck is, like, dead. It is cool to see it do well. It is playing a One of Iron bundle, which could be very interesting to have in the deck. Still, it's the Weird the double Snorlax. I mean, colorless Lugia does probably have a good Giratina matchup, other than, like, you're probably going to struggle against Charizard, obviously, and maybe you're probably going to have a hard time into, but not Miraidon, because he played Dunsparce, but I don't know. There's a Snorlax in top 8. Good old Snorlax. No technology, no crabs, no energy, just straight Snorlax there. And then we have another Guardy here in top 8 with double Moonlit Hill Stadium, really trying to capitalize on the double Moonlit Hill. Honestly, if you're playing double Moonlit Hill, I don't hate maybe just playing 3 Shining Arcana Gardevoirs to really capitalize on the Moonlit Hill. But Moonlit Hill definitely making its rounds here in the online tourneys. And then, of course, we do have a Snorlax deck here, once again, in top 8. Just no energy, playing a Spiritomb in the deck, gets to bling out with the shinies. And then next up, we do have the Stellar Wish X Doom tournament here, which was won by a Kyogre Paradox Lost Box deck. Pretty interesting 60 playing a Mew EX. I like Mew in the deck, actually. It helps a lot against, obviously, Iono, but can be really good against Tina. And then, of course, you have the Kyogre in the deck as your big finisher. Kyogre, in my opinion, is really good right now, especially since we are seeing Roaring Moon pop up a lot more now. It is playing that Pogo Ditto, which you can transform it into an extra comfy. Keep in mind that Ditto might go up in value when rotation hits, because you can Buddy Poffin for it. Keep that in mind. But yeah, pretty interesting list. I'm a big fan of Kyogre, and it is cool to see it win the tournament here. And the runner-up deck was a Guardy, once again, playing at that Moonlit Hill Stadium. Moonlit Hill is definitely making an impact within Gardevoir, so it is cool to see it. Actually surprising that Guardy did lose to the Kyogre deck. I actually would argue Gardevoir would be favored into the matchup, because the only thing is like, they do have Iron Hands, which is annoying, but, like, if you just have, like, Draw Chain Manaphy in play, like, they're kind of limited, and you can spam Iono. That is interesting, but I guess, like, early Iron Hand sometimes can just do too much damage. And then we got a Tina here in top 4 with the Roaring Moon in the deck, so playing the Moon Tina list. Pretty cool. There's another Cloth here in top 4. More normal Cloth deck here, no Iron Valiant shenanigans, but it's just still Cloth Electrode doing its thing. It looks like it probably lost to Giratina, which would obviously be a bad matchup. I guess all the matchups Cloth would have encountered are bad. Like, yeah, they're all probably bad. Maybe the Electro deck's not as, or the Lost Zone deck's not as bad. There's another Zard here. Very interesting Zard 60, though. Just playing a Luminous Energy in the deck. Playing double Entei 2. Playing Silene in the deck. Not playing a lot of draw. In fact, only playing 2 Ionos. And 2 Arvins. So, pretty teched out Zard here. Dang. Interesting. And then, of course, we got another Moon here in top 8. It is the Iron Hands build with the Thornton. So, definitely an interesting 60, because Iron Hands is being, something considered in Moon. And we can see it do well here into this online tourney, too. Getting that fast hands-off can be pretty deadly with Roaring Moon. There's another just Giratina here with that Roxanne in top 8. And to round out the top 8, there is another Gardevoir with the Moonlit Hill Stadium. So yeah, Moonlit Hill popping up in all these Guardy online tourneys. Interesting to see. We got the late night tournament next. The tournament was won by Sagen Park with the Flaffy Miraidon deck. Now, interestingly enough, Sagen did play a Cobalion. Now, Cobalion is actually kind of smart, because it does allow you to do 30 more damage to Dark Pokemon, well, your basics can. So, essentially, Raichu can one-shot Charizard a lot more easily now with the Cobalion, and that is the idea of the Cobalion. Now, the only downside of the Cobalion, as you can see, there's no Zapdos in the deck. So you cut the Zapdos for the Cobalion. But in theory, that doesn't matter because Cobalion also then lets you do 230 damage still to Roaring Moon. So it kind of is an even trade. It's an interesting concept. It is kind of a all-in package, playing the Research Iono, also playing a Peony, just a one copy of Peony within this list. Definitely an interesting concept. Sage and Park definitely is an innovator of the Miraidon. There's another Fusion Mew here in second place. It looks like it did lose to the Miraidon deck. And then, of course, we do have another Rapid Strike here in top 4 with a Drapion, not playing Tomb, instead of playing Drapion. And then there's a Gardevoir in top 4, not playing the Moonlit Hill, but is playing triple Reversal Energy and 9 Psychic Energy. So trying to capitalize more on the reversals, which is interesting. We've seen that before in Brisbane. There's, of course, Cloth in top 8. More standardized build of Cloth. There's another Tina in top 8 here. We got double Iono Tina with only one Roxanne. Interesting. And there's another Zard in top 8, of course, because Zard is good. Playing the TM Devo. Playing the Charmeleon. All right, and then finally, in the top 8, there is yet another Gardevoir. I'm pretty sure this tournament was probably before Paldean Fates, but there's another Gardevoir here in the top 8, as you can see with the Turo in the deck. And yeah, pretty straightforward at Guardy 60 there. And that was that. And moving on, we got the Late Night is Brutbot at a Mushroom Tournament. So there's some interesting decks here in top 8. The winning deck was the Turbo Lost Box deck with the Dragonite V within the deck. So playing the Paradoxes, but also including the Dragonite V, which has been popping up a lot more now in these Lost Zone decks. Dragonite is still really good. It's a good beat stick, does a lot of damage. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like... it's not the same as playing Roaring Moon, but it is still, like, pretty good. It's that bulky, basic Pokemon that can get a lot of damage on the board. You also get access to, like, Shred, which can be good in the control matchup. And then there's another Lost Zone deck. Now, it is the exact Lost Zone deck we saw earlier with the Path to the Peak, the Double Moon Path deck. It did, of course, lose in the finals in that Lost Zone Moon Mirror scenario. And in top 4, there was another Giratina, of course, with an Iono. And then in the top 4 again, we once again saw our good friend Goldengo. It's actually Goldengo Scizor with a Rigid Man, trying to be a little bit more bulkier. One spicy inclusion is that Acerola's Premonition, which allows you to, I guess we can pop it up here. It lets you reveal your opponent reveals their hand. You can draw a card for each trainer you find there. So if you're playing against a deck like Giratina or Lost Zone, you can draw a ton of cards with Acerola, which is honestly pretty cool. So you can definitely get a big hand going there, especially when you have Goldengo and Greninja to back you up. And we got yet another Moon here in top 8. It is kind of a standard Moon list, 4 Research and 2 Iono. But with double Jelly in the deck, not playing any Ancient Booster Capsules there, which is interesting to see. And then, of course, we got another Tina in top 8 with double Roxanne and Avery. And then the big surprise here, there was a Hisuian Zoroark V-Star deck in top 8. Now, I like the idea of Hisuian Zoroark V-Star. You probably can, figure out how to beat the Charizard matchup a bit more efficiently, but Zoroark seems okay. I mean, maybe you want to play it with Klefki, though. Like, if I were to play Zoroark, I'd maybe play with Klefki. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I do like the idea of Zoroark right now in the format. It's not terrible. It's probably got, like, some bad matchups. Maybe the Gardevoir matchup is a little tricky, but you can still abuse Gape Chop Bog and a Radiant Alakazam, which really do help in that matchup. You can trade evenly with most 2-prize decks because of Zoroark's ability to one-hit KO anything, and it's really all down to whether or not you can set up the deck in time. But I do like this idea of Zoroark V-Star right now. Definitely cool to see it in the top 8. Yeah, really cool deck. I like it. Zoroark V-Star kind of seems underrated right now. It seems like it's one of those cards that is on the cusp of maybe being good. And then finally, we got another Mew in top 8. It is a build of Mew, though. We've seen before the Judge and the Fusion Energy, but is including that one of Oricorio to get that extra bit of Bulkian. But there you have it. Those are all of the recent online tournaments. So some new Paldean Fates cards in the mix. We are seeing the Moonlit Hill Stadium make a big impact in Gardevoir. Gardevoir having some pretty good results right now thanks to Moonlit Hill. Of course, some big surprises have been popping up here and there, especially with the spicy Arc Piles. Arc Piles are doing pretty good right now in these online tournaments. We saw a couple. Of course, we got that Arc Trevenant deck, and then we got the Arc Gudra deck. So definitely some interesting Arc decks. Arc is seeming to stay in the format right now, despite all odds that are against it. Arc is still holding in to the meta with some pretty interesting concepts. So that is it for me for the online tourney results recently. I will, of course, leave a link to Played Out Limitless if you ever want to play in any of these tournaments yourself. They are free. It's mostly like a new tournament every single day if you want to play in one. But that'll be for me. Hope you enjoyed, and catch you on another video soon. Bye-bye.